The next Psychic Awakening book is available for pre-order and you can get it from Games Workshop from the 15th of February. It's split into 3 sections. It's got Tao, Guard and Genestealer Cults, and in this video we're going to focus exclusively at the Tao bit. So what did the Tao get? Well, there's a new Shadow Sun model and rules for her. There are Sept Tenants, so you can make your own Sept rather than pick the ones in the main rulebook. There's prototype weapon systems. These replace signature systems, but instead of a relic, essentially you put a whole prototype weapon system on a unit, so you can benefit a whole unit from some of these things. There's 2 pages of stratagems. There's fluff about the 8 and rules for the 8 from the Farsight Enclaves, but this is cut and pasted from one of the earlier chapter approved. And there's rules for fielding the Farsight Enclaves themselves. There's 6 Warlord traits for the Farsight, 6 stratagems for the Farsight Enclaves. They have their own ability, 3 Warlord traits and 3 specific relics for the Farsight Enclaves as well. But we'll start at the very beginning. I'm not going to go through Commander Shadow Sun. She's basically been upgraded a little bit. Let's start off with Sept Tenants. So instead of picking one of the Septs from the main rulebook, you can pick from this book, and instead you select 2 Sept rules and you apply that to your Sept. We've seen this in the Space Marine Codex. If they don't want to pick Ultramarines or White Scars, they can pick 2 chapter traits and make your own chapter essentially. So this is make your own Sept. So we'll go through these. Turbojets, add 1 to the advance rolls made for jetpack units and add 2 to the move characteristics of jetpack models with this tenant. And dedication to the cause, add 1 to the leadership characteristics of models with this tenant. Then we've got soldiers in arms, increase the range of for the greater good ability to 6 inches for this tenant. Stabilization systems is very good. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a battlesuit model with this tenant, that model does not suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons. So your XV-88s now can move and fire their heavy weapons without penalty. And even better, hardened warheads. When resolving an attack made with a high-yield missile pod, seeker missiles, or smart missile system, improve the armor penetration characteristic of that system by AP-1. So you can see combining those 2 together, missile tides suddenly got even scarier. They're already pretty scary, but moving and firing them without penalty and moving and firing with an AP-1 to missile pods, high yield missile pods, seeker missiles, all that sort of stuff. And that will combine with the other one that Tao get, which I forget the name of, which got an increased AP. But basically, those 2 are very good. Sophisticated command net, when resolving an attack made by a vehicle model against a unit that has 1 or more marker-like counters, reroll wound rolls of 1. Hybridized weaponry, add 4 inches to the range characteristics of assault and grenade weapons made by this. Grenade weapons models with this tenant are equipped with. This does not apply to prototype weapon systems. Gifted pilots, if in your movement phase a vehicle or monster model with this tenant does not move or moves a distance less than half its move characteristics until the end of turn, when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by that model, reroll wound rolls of 1 for vehicles or monsters. Reroll wound rolls of 1. You've got to stay still or move half. Advanced power cells, tactical drones only, have a move characteristics of 10 inches. Maneuvering thrusters, a battlesuit unit with this tenant can advance even when it falls back. Now that one's pretty good. Being able to fall back and advance out of combat means that's pretty good. That can get you out of line of sight. And upgunned burst cannon models with this tenant are equipped with have an armor penetration characteristic of -1. So if you're bringing lots of burst cannons suddenly have an AP-1. That's it for the Sept Tenants. Remember, you can combine 2 of them. So you could get hardened warheads. So all your missiles have AP-1 and upgunned. So all your burst cannons have an AP-1 inbuilt as well. You can then combine any 2 of these if you don't want to choose one of the Septs from the main rulebook. After this, we have prototype weapon systems. Now, the way this works is if you've got a Tao Empire character as your Warlord, which you will have, instead of giving any Tao Empire character a signature system, instead you give a unit a prototype weapons system. So you've got to give up a signature system and instead select a prototype weapon system for one Tao Empire unit from your army. Now, sometimes the unit in the list below might be a model. It'll say a ghost keel, but sometimes it can affect more than one model. So let's go through them. Reactive countermeasures are for battlesuit models. So you can give this to a battlesuit unit. It just says battlesuit, so anything with a battlesuit keyword. And reactive countermeasures, basically ranged weapons with an AP characteristics of -1 or -2 are treated as 0. So that's pretty good to chuck that on a large unit of suits or anything with a battlesuit keyword to give an AP -1 or -2, and you ignore it. Fusion Obliterator, give to a ghost keel. And it replaces the Fusion Collider, and a Fusion Obliterator is 24-inch range, heavy 3, strength 9, -4 d6 damage. Advanced EM Scrambler you also give to a ghost keel, and enemy models cannot be set up on the battlefield as reinforcements within 12 inches of the model. There's a high capacity railgun for Tau Hammerhead gunships, and the solid shot becomes a heavy 2, strength 10, -4 d6, and the submunitions becomes a heavy 4 d3, strength 6, -1 damage. And when resolving an attack made with a solid shot profile, a wound roll of 6 plus inflicts d3 mortal wounds in addition. Gatling Burst Cannon. You can give this to a commander, crisis battlesuits, crisis bodyguards, or a ghost kill battlesuit, and replaces each burst cannon that the models in this unit are equipped with. So for example, imagine giving it to some crisis bodyguards or some crisis battlesuits with burst cannons and replacing all the burst cannons. The burst cannons become assault 4, strength 5, AP 0, 1 damage. And when resolving an attack made with this weapon with an unmodified hit roll of 6, it scores an additional hit. So Tesla almost. Network Marker Lights you give to a Pathfinder team, and all the weapon system, and this weapon system replaces each marker light that the models in the unit are equipped with, and they become 36-inch range assault 1 marker lights. Annihilation Warheads you give to a Storm Surge when resolving an attack made with a destroyer missile by this model. If it scores a hit, don't roll to determine the number of mortal wounds suffered by the target unit. That unit suffers 3 mortal wounds. So if you're firing off all 4 of your destroyer missiles at the same time, then you're going to do a flat 3, flat 3, flat 3 if you're hitting with multiple destroyer missiles. That's pretty deadly. Accelerated photon grenades are use a unit with photon grenades only. This weapon system replaces each photon grenade that models in this unit are equipped with. It's a 12-inch range, it's grenade D6, you can only target infantry, and it doesn't hurt them. What it does is shock the unit, and when an infantry unit is shocked by the accelerated photon grenades, they've got -1 to hit and melee, and they can't advance, and charge rolls for shocked units are halved. You've got cross-linked stabilizer jets for commanders, crisis battlesuits or crisis bodyguard units when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model in this unit. So any weapon in the unit that you're shooting with your battle suits, reroll hit rolls of 1 and reroll wound rolls of 1. A Magna rail rifle is for an XV-88 broadside battle suit unit. So if you've got rail rifles on your XV-88s, and not a lot of people do now, but if you have, then you can put this on a unit with rail rifles, and you've got heavy 2 rail rifles at strength 9, -4 d6 damage. And they do mortal wounds on a wound roll of a 6, and I know it's d6 damage, but they say wound rolls of 1 or 2s always count as 3. So your heavy 2, strength 9, -4, and a 3, 4, 5 or 6 damage when you're rolling on your d6. We have an amplified ion accelerator for Riptide battlesuits, and it replaces an ion accelerator. And the ion accelerator then becomes a standard heavy 6, strength 8, -4, 3 damage, or overcharged heavy 6, strength 9, -4, 3 plus d3 damage. Then we have high-powered incinerators for battlesuit units. They are flamers. which are assault d6 at strength 4, but if you're in half range, then you add 1 to the strength characteristics of the weapons. So they become strength 5 at 4 inches or less, essentially. Now that's the prototype weapon systems. I can't see any relics in here or a way to give 2 prototype weapon system units out. Basically, you're giving up a signature system, a relic, and you're chucking this thing, this rule on a unit instead. And I think you can agree, some of them are very scary. Battlesuit units ignoring AP -1 and maybe AP -2 is very good. Battlesuit units re-rolling hit rolls of 1 and re-rolling wound rolls of 1 is very good. XV-88 rail rifles suddenly got very good. Annihilation warheads, your destroyer missiles from your storm surges doing a flat 3 mortal wounds if they hit. It's very good, particularly as you can shoot out 4 of them. So there's lots of nice things in here, but you can't have all the nice things. You can only pick one of them, but you will pick one of them because they're beautiful. We have Tao Empire Stratagems. There's 2 pages of stratagems in here, and one of them is called Promising Pupil, and it's 1 CP. And like in the other books, essentially you can pick a character and give that character a Warlord trait even though it's not your Warlord for 1 CP. Promising Pupil. I like it. It brings it into line with lots of the other books, other codexes that we've seen. Now, these 2 pages of stratagems, like in the other, have some very specific stratagems that affect specific units, such as Kroot or Vespid Stingwings or Battlesuit units. There's some that are general, but some that affect specific units. We've seen this in other books, other Psychic Awakening books, where they say, hey, here's a stratagem for that particular unit. Here's a stratagem for that particular unit. So some of these are very bespoke and you might never use them, but it's nice to think that some of these units are getting some love and some of these units will be affected quite heavily by this. So let's run through them. The first one is Sworn Bodyguards, and essentially if you've got a unit of Crisis Bodyguards in an assault within 3 inches of a character, you can reroll hit rolls and you can reroll the wound rolls while you're in assault. You don't really want to be in assault, but it's there if you've got it. Aerial targeting is quite nice. For 1 CP, you use it in your shooting phase, select an enemy unit, and until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model from your army against that unit, treat that unit as having 1 more marker-like counter than it actually has for that attack. It costs 1 CP. So essentially, you can put a marker-like on a unit that hasn't got any, because it says treat that unit as having 1 more marker-like counter than it actually has for that attack. And we also see later in this review that this is the base ability for units from the Farsight Enclaves. It's the base Sept ability that Farsight Enclave units get. It's called Aggressive Footing. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model in this unit against an enemy unit within 12 inches, treat that enemy unit as having 1 more marker-like counter than it actually has. That's what you get if you play Farsight Enclaves. You need to be within 12 inches of the enemy, but you're essentially getting free marker-like hits within 12 inches. So if that unit has 0 marker-lights, then you treat it as having 1 more marker-light than it actually has. Or say, for example, you've put 4 marker-lights on a unit. Then you can spend 1 CP and treat that unit as having 1 more marker-light counter than it actually has, and suddenly get it up to the magical 5 marker-light hits. For aerial targeting is the Tao Empire Stratagem, or Aggressive Footing is the Forces of the Enclave's basic ability. Extra marker-lights within 12 inches. 2 CP, the new stratagem. It's called Deadly Aim. You apply this to a unit of sniper drones and you increase their AP by 1. But if they're within half range of a unit, you increase it by a further 1. So within half range, you've got AP -2 on Tau sniper drones for 2 CP. Wisdom of the Many is an ethereal unit, and that ethereal can invoke an additional elemental power. So you can invoke 2. You can do Sense of Stone and the other one that does all the shooting. Do 2 powers in the same turn for 1 CP. Pulse Onslaught for a Breacher team. Close range and medium range profiles for the Pulse Blasters are increased to 15 inches. Just a flat 15 inches for close range and medium range. Modulated Weaponry. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase and select a Tau model which is not Titanic. Until the end of that phase, do not roll to determine the type characteristics of heavy weapons for that model. They have their maximum values. So a heavy D6 weapon makes 6 shots. So if you're using Incinerators or the Riptides, they're making a flat 6 shots. You don't have to roll for it. 1 CP modulated weaponry. Rain of Fire is for Sting Wings. It costs 1 CP, and when your Sting Wings plunge from the sky, when they're set up from Deep Strike, you can re-roll the hit roll. Not a lot of people bring Sting Wings. Will this change that for you? Will this mean that you suddenly decide, maybe I'll get some Sting Wings because they've got re-roll the hit roll on the turn they jump in? 2 CP Coordinated Engagement. You can pick a Bodyguard unit or a Crisis unit. Pick one unit and then pick one enemy unit. And you can treat that enemy unit as if it has 5 marker-like counters. Yes, it's 2 CP. Yes, it's rather expensive. But say you're the player that's got a unit of 5 Crisis suits. Or even a unit of 3 Crisis suits, or with Pulse, the plasma thing. And you're dropping in from reserve. Suddenly you've got 5 marker-like counters on the unit that you're shooting at. Doesn't count as in cover. You'll get the increased to hit. You'll be re-rolling hit rolls of 1 for 2 CP. It could be quite nasty. Now only one of your units will benefit from that 5 marker-like hits on that enemy unit. You have to pick a Crisis unit or a Bodyguard unit, and that unit that you've picked benefits as though it has 5 marker-like hits on the enemy unit. It's a bit specific, but it will be very brutal when you pull it off. For 1 CP, your crew can make a heroic intervention, ambushing predators, or for 1 CP, your Farsight marksman can target characters, seasoned sniper. Or for 1 CP, you can select a unit of crew which is in cover, and then any enemy unit that shoot at the crew have -1 to hit, and you can add 1 to the saving throw for the crew. And for 1 CP, we've got Pack Alpha for a crew shaper. And when they advance or charge any friendly crew unit within 6 inches, they roll an additional d6 and discard 1 of the dice. I ran through those ones because I don't think we're going to see them very much. Farsight Marksman and 2 for crew and 1 for a crew shaper. There's 1 for a Crutox Rider as well for 1 CP called Raging Beasts, and until the end of the phase, models in that unit have an attack characteristic of 4. And the AP, the armor penetration characteristics of Crutox Fist models, is improved by 2. So AP 0 becomes AP -2, and that's 1 CP. So if you're bringing Crutox, then there's stratagems now for them. Point Blank Volley is very interesting for 1 CP. You select a Tau Sept unit from your army in the shooting phase, and Pulse Blasters, Pulse Carbines, and Pulse Rifles suddenly count as Pistol 2. Now, why would you do that? Say you've got a unit of Tau that are in combat and survived. Say there's 8 or 9 of them left. Say the enemy piled into them after smashing apart a unit and have piled into your 12-man unit of Tau. Instead of falling back and not being able to shoot with them, you could just pile in, and in your shooting phase, all your pulse weapons suddenly count as pistols 2, and you'll be able to shoot into combat. Point Blank Volley, 1 CP. You cannot be affected by the volley fire ability when you're using this stratagem, however. So those are the new stratagems. I like the ability to give a character an extra Warlord. I like the ability for Ethereals to use 2 elemental powers in 1 turn. I like the ability to just slap on an extra marker light on a unit. Or coordinated engagement for 2 CP when your crisis teams are coming in to re-roll. To treat the enemy unit as if they have 5 marker light counters. Those ones seem to be the strongest stratagems for me. Then we have some narrative for the 8, and we have using the 8 in battle and their rules. And this is from a previous chapter approved, I think 2018. So if you don't have it, it's now in this book. And then we have the forces of the Enclaves, the rules for Farsight Enclave units. And I already mentioned aggressive footing. This essentially becomes their Sept. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model in this unit, against enemy units within 12 inches, treat that enemy unit as having 1 more marker-like counter than it actually has. And we've got new and updated rules for the Farsight Enclaves, including stratagems, relics, warlord traits, and tactical objectives. And here are their stratagems. They've got 6. 1 or 2 CP. Use this stratagem before the battle. Select one XV8 crisis suit or crisis bodyguard unit from your army. Basically, a unit of battle suits from your army that contains 3 models for 1 command points. Or if it's got 4 or more models, it's going to cost you 2 command points, this veteran cadre. And models in that unit have a weapon skill characteristic of 4 up and a ballistic skill characteristic of 3 up. For the remainder of the battle, you can only use this stratagem once per battle. So increasing the ballistic skill of a unit of suits for 1 or 2 CP, depending on the size of that unit. Furious Assault. Use this stratagem in your charge phase. When a jetpack unit from your army finishes a charge move, for each enemy model in that unit, you can select one enemy unit within 1 inch of that model and roll 1d6 on a 3 up. That enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. It costs 1 CP. So 1 CP on a 3 up, you do a mortal wound. But again, if you've got 5 crisis suits that have made a charge and you roll 5 3 ups, that's 5 mortal wounds that you're going to be applying to the enemy unit. So for 1 CP, it's not that bad, particularly if you're charging a tank, for example, that you just fragged with your stuff and it's got 1 or 2 wounds left on it. Perhaps you want to throw your suits in there just to kill it off, because the tank might be an iron hand and it might be reversing and suddenly recover 2d3 wounds and blow your suits away. Danger Close. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a breacher team or strike team unit from your army is chosen to shoot with. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model in that unit against an enemy unit within 12, you can re-roll the wound roll. So re-roll wounds against enemies within 12 for 1 CP, breacher team or strike team. Defense in numbers costs 2 CPs. You pick a crisis team or a crisis bodyguard team, and in the shooting phase, you can get a 5 up, feel no pain. Or in the fight phase, you can get a 5 up, feel no pain. It costs 2 CP, but it's nice. Focus Fury. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase when a character model from your army is chosen to shoot with, and until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by that model, you can re-roll the wound roll. That's pretty powerful for your commanders, for example, because commanders are a character model, and for 1 CP, suddenly you're re-rolling wounds. Punching those fusions at a tank, which is wounding on a 3 up or in some cases a 4 up, having the ability to re-roll the wound roll for 1 CP is a very nice stratagem. Firestorm. Use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select 3 Tao Empire units with the flyer battlefield roll from your army. Costs 1 additional command point for each selected unit. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 3 inches of those selected units, and on a 4+, that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. So if you're one of the few Tau players that still brings flyers, you can do bombing runs. It's a CP, it's a 4 up, and it does d3 mortal wounds. Now we have Enclave Relics, the Mirror Codex. When resolving an attack made by a model with this relic against a unit that's within 18 inches, you can re-roll the hit roll. That's pretty brutal. Again, sticking that on a commander, so he's always re-rolling the hit roll within 18 inches. I like it. Talisman of Athos Moloch. A model with this relic has a 5 up invulnerable save, and they can deny the witch. 24-inch range, deny the witch. Seismic Fibrillator mode. Fibrillator node. Once per battle, at the start of your opponent's turn, you can activate the relic. If you do so until the end of that turn, when a model starts or ends a move within 6 inches of a model with this relic, roll a d6. On a 1, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So once per battle thing, and a 1 in 6 chance of doing a mortal wound to any units that move around your Warlord. Bit of a weird one. All the enemy has to do is stand still. There's 3 Warlord traits for Farsight Enclaves, which you could pick instead of from the main book. And when a morale test is taken for a friendly Farsight Enclaves unit with a bonding knife ritual, basically your bonding knife ritual passes on a 4 instead of a 6. It's called Blooded Through War, so long as they're within 12 inches of your Warlord. So if you're bringing loads of little guys, if you're bringing a Horde Tau, then this is potentially one that you might want to consider. Aggressive Tactician is for a commander model only. And when your Warlord declares Mont Car, it's got a 12-inch range instead of a 6-inch range. And then Master of the Killing Blow. When resolving an attack made by your Warlord against a character, you can reroll the hit roll. I don't know why that one's even in there, considering the Mirror Codex allows you to reroll the hit roll to any unit within 18 inches, not just characters. And I mean, is anyone going to be bringing relics anyway now the signature systems are in this book? Because some of those signature systems are a beautiful thing. Anyway, that's it for the Tao section of Psychic Awakening, the Great Good, minus her, minus Shadow Sun. The internet will be all over Shadow Sun, so I won't cover her. She's a glorious model. Anyway, is this bit broken? No, but there's certainly some good combinations in there which people can take advantage of. There's certainly some things in here which will help some of your units sing. And the narrative bunny in me does like the idea of people building their own septs, their own minor sept worlds off on the fringes that fight a particular way. Or the gamer in me does like the idea of playing with friends and choosing a couple of septs, building your own Sept Tenants one way to help benefit your list in a certain kind of way, and then in a couple of weeks' time, building a list in another way and choosing a couple of different Sept Tenants. It means that your play style will change. It means your opponents get to see different faces of the Tao and different kinds of play styles. So it does add, and I don't think it breaks. Mind you, there might be a few Tau players out there listening to this thinking, oh mama, I've got some really good ideas of how to combine X and Y and Z and make this unit an absolute killer unit and give this unit over here these signature systems so they can do this. So I'll be very interested to see some battle reports in the future and seeing what some people do with these things. I'll be keeping a close eye on YouTube in the upcoming couple of weeks and watching those Tau players break out their toys and show us what they can do. Anyway, thank you for listening to this section. If you're interested in hearing about the Scions and the Astra Militarum and the Genestealer cult, then those videos should be online at the same time as this one. Thanks for listening. Happy wargaming.